What is up, everybody? Welcome into the first. What was the date, Bales? When's your birthday? The 11th?
March 11th.
Yeah, this is the first NBA stream with Bales and I since March 11th. Feels good to be back. I didn't think we were gonna for a while there. I didn't think we were coming back for an NBA stream or a baseball stream, but we somehow now have both going on at the same time. It's created some pretty crazy times for us that do content, but there's really no way I'd rather have it after having that long break. So I'm excited to get into this basketball slate. I'm excited to just get in the full swing of all sports going on. If you're watching this, thank you guys for tuning in. Like we said yesterday, today's going to be basketball, and then we'll get back on baseball streams next week. We're going to do NBA stuff the night before, so we'll have like some pre-recorded pods up for that. Before we get into the slate, we want to shout out our sponsor, Superdraft. You can head over to superdraft.io and sign up using the promo code KARMA. I'm excited for some basketball in Superdraft. I like Luka Doncic is not the flat 1x multiplier. They moved him down to 1.1. So I think that's kind of interesting. And I'm just excited to play. I think it's going to be fun. I like who you wrote up in your article, Troy Brown. I put him in the optimal Superdraft lineup that's up for subscribers. I do think the multiplier is too good.
Let me quick mention this because Troy Brown's like a cash game play on DraftKings. Like he's so obvious. But on Superdraft, if you don't know how it works, you can play anyone. Some guys get multipliers. So like anyone that's reading it that's thinking like DraftKings is probably like, this isn't a tournament play. This like easy cash play, which on like DraftKings, 100% true. I agree with you. He's going to get ownership. But on a site like Superdraft, like where you can play every single elite level guy, a lot of people won't even look towards guys like Troy Brown. But when you factor in like the 1.8 times multiplier, all of a sudden his I don't want to say price tag because there's no price, but he becomes a little more enticing of a play.
Yeah, I love that multiplier for him, and there's some other really good ones there as well. So be sure to head over and check that out. Also, check out all of our free content, dfscomer.com. Bales and I both have articles up for today for free. Sriracha just dropped his game theory. I'll have final thoughts up closer to lock. But let's just get into the slate. We're going to go position by position. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask in chat. Starting at point guard, Bales, best game of the night, Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks. Pretty big over-under, close spread. I like the Rockets in this game, but I think both Luka and Harden, Russ as well, all really good DFS plays. How would you break down those three guys?
Man, Russ is a pretty clear through to me, honestly, just because he's much cheaper, like over 1,000 cheaper than Luka, but you don't need it. Like it's not a slate where the pricing is tight, so you can do anything you want. So I have Russ specifically in cash down from the two. I think his ownership's going to be way below them, so he's a fine tournament pivot just because we know he can triple double basically any night. As for Harden and Luka, that's tough. I think personally I would go Luka then Harden, only slightly, but I mean I really wouldn't fault you for playing either of them.
Yeah, I mean I think they're pretty clearly the top spend ups on the slate. I think you can very easily play both of them together if you want to do that. I think I would slightly lean Harden then Luka, but like you said, it really it doesn't matter. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people talk about how the rest is going to benefit like X player, and I just want to note that the rest is going to benefit literally all of these players. Like no one is not benefiting from having 4 months off. But I will say in Harden's case, I do think it helps him a little bit more than other people. Like we've seen him kind of fade as they head into the playoffs in recent seasons. Right before COVID hit, it was kind of Russ's team there for a minute. So I do think that'll be back to being Harden's show when we hit this game tonight. So I would slightly lean towards him, but I don't think you can go wrong with either. So outside of the big ones, I think for tournaments, for me on DK, Damian Lillard at 9,300 is a really strong play. Don't think he'll have a ton of ownership. We were talking about it before the stream, but Lillard was one of the guys that came out and said, I'm not going to the bubble unless it's a situation where we have a chance to make the playoffs. So you would feel like he's inclined to have a big game and put the team on his back, try and try and get the Blazers into a good position. And then Devin Booker's right there at 8,800. I would pick Lillard over Booker, I think, but I mean Booker's matchup against Washington is, arguably the top on the slate.
Yeah, I'm fine with either. I agree. I think I would rather go Lillard, but only slightly. If we drop down more, John Morant and DeJounte Murray are 7K and 6-1. Both are expected to play over 30 minutes. So, I mean, if they're getting the minutes, we know that both have a ton of upside. Murray especially, like, no one's really going to play him because they're going to be playing Lonnie Walker. You already said before this when we were talking that you believe a bunch play Poeltl. So, realistically, people aren't going to stack the Spurs on this type of slate. So you can probably get Murray at a lower price, and I mean his upside is just crazy. I think they're pretty clearly for the mid-price options, like the two that really stick out to me.
Yeah, I like Ricky Rubio in that tier as well, kind of right there at 7-4. I like his matchup with the Wizards, obviously, which we were just talking about. Can you throw in some FanDuel thoughts as well here and there? Yeah. I'll pull up FanDuel pricing as we go along here. But yeah, I agree with what you said. I'm not really on Murray, but I totally understand playing him. I do not think he will be owned. So if you're playing him in tournaments for the fact that you're going to get him at low ownership, I do think that's a good call. Morant, I think, is fine. I don't really like anyone else in that mid tier. I think DiVincenzo's interesting at 4,900 with Bledsoe out, but I'm not really on that game. So I think outside of that, you're just dropping down to the low tier. Who do you like in terms of like really cheap guys at point guard?
Yeah, I really like Chris Chiozza because he's actually really good for fantasy, and Brooklyn doesn't have anyone. Like if Chiozza's getting 25 or more minutes tonight, there's almost no way he doesn't just destroy his value. It doesn't seem like many people are even looking at him because you have so many cheap options. Besides that, I mean, you can take like your shot on like Tyler Johnson, George Hill, Ish Smith. They're all 4K or under, and I don't really have any issues. But if I'm spending less than 4K at point guard, I feel like Chiozza, which sounds weird, is more or less the clear option for me.
Yeah, I agree with that for DraftKings. So speaking of FanDuel, Chiozza's 5,600 on FanDuel. That's a pretty big fade for me. I will not be playing him at 5,600. But
Yeah, no,
DraftKings,
you'll get no ownership.
yeah, that is true. DraftKings 3,900. He's a really strong play. He's actually a fantasy point per minute guy, or at least he has been. So I agree. I think he's better than people realize, and he should be forced into playing some minutes. So I like him on DK. I think you can use George Hill if you want to pivot off of Chiozza, who should get some ownership, but that's about it. FanDuel, though, I think Lillard at 8,900 is a really strong play, and I like Rubio at 65 there.
I agree with that on FanDuel. Uh, Jerome Robinson is 3,500. I mean, I'm not necessarily a huge Robinson guy, but at 3,500, that's a pretty easy plug and play if you want to get the other elite guys on this slate.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think so. Gary Payton's not there with them. I don't think Garrison Matthews is with them either. So they really don't have that many guards, right? So I could definitely see Jerome Robinson playing mid-20s in minutes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And uh, Payton tested positive, and Matthews didn't go, so both should be out. I find it weird that Jerome Robinson's a point guard on FanDuel, but it just makes sense for 3,500 to take your shot there.
Yep, I agree. We'll move on to shooting guard. Other than Harden, who we just talked about at point guard, the clear name here is Karis LeVert. I was expecting him. I'll be honest. When I first when we got this announced and when the contest dropped for DraftKings, but the pricing wasn't out, I was kind of looking at the games, and I was assuming or at least hoping that Karis LeVert was going to be like $9,500. But he's 78. So he's almost 2,000 cheaper than what I was assuming he should have been priced at. So that's going to make him a pretty clear lock for me. The matchup is tough against Orlando. I'm not denying that at all. But there's just nobody on this team. I mean, if you look at the Nets without Kyrie, without Taurean Prince, and without Dinwiddie, He was at a 40% usage rate. He was at a 33% usage rate in their scrimmages. So it's just like it's just too cheap. He's gonna take as many shots as he wants, and he's gonna do, he's gonna have the ball in his hands so much that it's just really tough to fade him even at high ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what there is to say except for just play him. Like it's easy at this point.
Yeah. So I mean, do you think that there's merit to fading him in tournaments at the high ownership?
Um, yeah, yeah, I guess because he plays Orlando and like they're gonna slow the pace down, and if they really, really want to try to stop him, but I mean, Levert is under 8K and can drop well over 60. Like, can you fade him? Yeah. Should you? I probably won't.
Yeah, I wouldn't fade him in tournaments. I could see if you're playing a lot of lineups not having him on some though. I think that's perfectly acceptable. DiVincenzo Walker, good plays on FanDuel. DiVincenzo, I like. Kemba, I am not playing today.
Yeah, Kemba's not. I meant to mention that at point guard. Kemba's only playing very limited minutes, so don't use him.
Yeah, we have no idea how much he's gonna play, so I would pass there. Unless you mean Lonnie Walker, in which then yes, I like Lonnie Walker.
Yeah, Lonnie Walker's like the best play on the slate.
Yeah, I actually he just put Walker, so I'm assuming he meant Lonnie Walker, but
Probably because we're a shooting guard.
yeah, so Lonnie Walker's completely fine. All right. Anyone else at shooting guard? Let's go down to the mid tier here. Not a ton. Like, what do you make of Napier's point guard, shooting guard on DK? I don't think I'm going to play him, but I do think he could get some ownership just because the Wizards are obviously lacking bodies, and he's gonna start.
I don't think I can play him because he's not expected to play major minutes. Like if he was going to play 35 minutes, I'm in. Like you can easily play him for that. But if he's only going to play like 25, I'm not really going to pay almost 6,000 for him.
Yeah, I would play Joe Harris over him. Are you in that same boat?
Joe Harris. Honestly, I probably would, but it just sounds really weird saying it.
Yeah, but I mean they're around the same price. I just feel a little bit more confident in Joe Harris, but the guy that we need to talk about here, Troy Brown. I know you wrote him up for Super Draft, which we were talking about. I wrote him up in my building blocks. Like this guy looked really good in their scrimmages. He has a clear path. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he takes the most shots on this team. Like Hachimura is probably going to be the main point of this offense at the moment, but I really wouldn't be shocked if Troy Brown just does a ton offensively, and he's really cheap.
Yeah, Troy Brown's like just a top play, especially in a game against Phoenix. It's tough because now the problem with the pricing like this is it makes us have to make decisions in tournaments. Like, do we fade Troy Brown knowing that most likely he just destroys and scores a ton of fantasy points? And like, do I really want to play chalk Troy Brown? Not really, but am I gonna? I probably have to. I will say I do think a decent pivot off of him is Bogdan Bogdanovic for only 100 more. He's been playing he was playing extremely well before they shut down the league. I think he dropped over 50 in like one of his last games prior to the league shutting down. So at only 4,800, and really a solid matchup against the Spurs, I do feel like Bogdanovic makes a lot of sense in tournaments if you decide to pivot off of Troy Brown.
Yeah, Josh asked about Cam Johnson. I could see him playing mid-20s in minutes, so I don't think I would mind him in a GPP, just not someone I'm going to have a ton of exposure to. But if you're looking, like if you're playing a lot of teams, I wouldn't mind filtering him in there. I don't know. I think you're going to be surprised. I think Troy Brown's going to be a little bit lower owned than we think. Like, I don't think he's going to have no ownership, but I don't think he's going to be massive chalk. Like, I think I know they're different positions. I think more people will play Pirtle from the Spurs than they will Troy Brown from the Wizards.
What did you say? You went out.
I think more people will play Pirtle than they will Troy Brown, even though they're different positions.
I mean, if that's the case, I'm pretty interested in Troy Brown.
Yeah. I don't think he's not going to be like a secret, but I don't think he's going to be like 40% owned. I think he's going to be a little bit lower than that. Also, can we just discuss real quick? I know this is an NBA show, but can we discuss Bieber was 30% on DraftKings, and then Lamette and Bundy were both like 65? Is this not insanity?
I hear you, dude. I hear you. When you said you wanted Bieber and Cash, I questioned it at first, but
I know.
I was like,
I still
yeah,
thought I
it's
thought he was
smart.
gonna be
It's good.
higher. I thought he was gonna be like at least 45. That was kind of crazy. But all right, we'll get back. Anyone else at shooting guard you wanna touch on?
I mean, just Lonnie Walker. We didn't really outline him, but he's gonna have to play, and he's super cheap, so go ahead and use him.
Yeah, I wrote him up. So if you guys didn't read my article, go check that out. Check Bale's article out as well. But he started every game of their scrimmages, and it seems like we can never really trust Greg Popovich, but it seems like they're content just going with the younger guys here and using this as a learning experience because I don't think they're going to try and jump into that playoff spot. But he looked really good. He averaged 13 points a game in their scrimmages, shot over 50% from three and from the field. So if he's 3,200 and he's going to start, I'm certainly interested in him. Like, I'll take the risk and just be overweight on him. I don't really care.
Yeah, he's the. I don't think people realize because like he hasn't played that much, but he's a really, really good player. Uh, I mean, it's only a matter of time, I think, before he just breaks out.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Josh has missed the beginning. Do you like Kyle Korver? I'm probably out on Korver. Um, I guess if you want to use him in tournaments, you can, but there's other guys priced around him. I think I'm a little bit more interested in.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
All right, small forward. Small forward's kind of weird today. That's why I like that Walker has small forward on DraftKings because I can use him there. You can use Troy Brown at small forward as well. In terms of the top tier, Luca has small forward eligibility, which is good. Tatum, I know you like him at 8,700. I'm not really on that game, but I completely understand that. DeRozan 77, I think, is probably the best play. But you really like if they're gonna go full youth movement. I don't really know what I can expect from DeRozan.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine them coming into this and like DeRozan accepting to come into this, not thinking that he's going to play big minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it would just make more sense if he knew that they weren't going to play him or anything. He would have just sat out. But it's definitely concerning, I would say.
yeah, it's a weird situation. That's why I don't know if I would want to play him in cash, honestly. Tim Hardaway, I think, is fine in GPP. Is just getting some more exposure to that game. And then Robert Covington, on the other side, I think both of those guys are strong plays in the low 6K tier.
Yep, I would agree with that. That's man, I don't know if there's too many other guys. I think at 4,300, Kyle Anderson makes sense. He's going to have to play for Memphis, and he gets a plus matchup against Portland. And if you want to talk about like Isaac Bonga, he's going to have to play for Washington. But I don't ever really love playing him, especially if I don't have to, which obviously I don't have to. And then one guy that I wrote up, Keldon Johnson. If you don't know who he is, he's a rookie, and they said he's just been improving like crazy since the shutdown. And then he came out in his last scrimmage. He dropped 21 against the Pacers. Honestly, I have no clue how much he plays. But if the Spurs are going with the youth movement where they're getting them some minutes, I think Keldon Johnson at minimum price does come with quite a bit of upside. If you're running like one team, obviously don't use him. That would be ridiculous. But if you're entering a bunch of lineups, feel free to get him on one or two.
Yeah, I think Walker's a little bit safer than Keldon Johnson, but both are definitely in play. Like I have no problems looking at Keldon Johnson in tournaments. Isaac super cheap on FanDuel. I, I love Jonathan Isaac. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA. I'm actually a really big fan of his. I think he's going to be really good. The problem with me is he only played the one scrimmage he played like 7 minutes, right? He's coming back from injury. I don't know if they're going to be really inclined to give him a bunch of minutes in the first game of this bubble. So I just don't know. I don't really have no honest idea how much he's going to play. So I don't think I could play him in cash. If you want to do that in tournaments on FanDuel where you get +3 for the block and steal, I think you could do it, but not someone I would be overly exposed to just because I have no idea how much he's going to play.
Yeah, I agree. I would be shocked if he plays more than like 15 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, I think like 15 is probably what I would guess. Do you have any love for skinny Melo? Someone asked about Melo.
I I am going to love when he's yelling at his own team to get
I
rebounds.
know.
But I don't actually hate it. He's gonna have to play big minutes because Portland's trying to uh, get themselves in the playoffs. So they're the one team that like is guaranteed that their players are gonna play big minutes. So I don't hate it because I doubt anyone really plays him, and he is actually cheap. I just also don't think that Melo's that good.
Yeah, interesting price point. I'll say that much. It is a little bit interesting. We'll move on to power forward. Giannis. I mean, Giannis is obviously Giannis. You know, he has a really high ceiling. Anytime he takes the floor, doesn't really matter what the matchup is. The problem with Giannis for me is he's 10-5. Luka's also 10-5, and Harden's 11K. There is no way that Giannis plays as many minutes as Harden. Like, there's literally no way. Harden's going to play 6 or 7 more minutes than Giannis, I would say. Luka is most likely going to play a good amount of more minutes as well. So the problem with me is he's only going to play probably 30 minutes. So that's a concern for me. But I don't have any issues with him in tournaments. But I assume you don't want Giannis in cash, right, Bills?
Yeah, I would say so. I just think that there's other guys that you can go to instead of him, and it's tough because they might want to make a statement to Boston, who it seems like a lot of people are actually picking Boston to win the East. So Milwaukee might want to come out and make a statement, and if they do, they could play Giannis 35 or more minutes. I just feel like they're always way too careful with him.
Yeah, they're definitely. I would guess he plays like 30. An impossible question in chat: Bonga or Daniel House on DraftKings?
Um,
That's tough. I don't mind Daniel House
yeah,
for that price, but I mean Bonga is gonna have to play. I think I'd probably take Daniel House.
I think I would take House too. He should play big minutes, and I mean, I don't know. It's not like you get Bonga playing big minutes and he does anything on the court. So like it doesn't matter that Westbrook and Harden are running the show because House could luck himself into some stuff, which is basically what Bonga has to do anyway.
Yeah, any locks on DraftKings? I think Jared Allen would qualify as a lock. I think Troy Brown would qualify as a lock. And Karis LeVert. That would be like the 3 guys I think you have to put in your lineup.
Yeah, I like that.
Holmes 3,900 FanDuel. Yeah, you stole this from me. I was waiting to drop this hammer on Bales when we got to center, but yeah, Rashawn Holmes is $3,900 on FanDuel. Bales.
Yeah, he's power forward
Oh, he's
on
power forward. I
FanDuel.
thought he was
Yeah.
center. Oh, well then you can
Um,
play Pirtle. You can literally play Pirtle and Holmes together, and it's like less than 6K.
I don't want to be that guy, but if Holmes is owned on FanDuel at anything less than 100%, somebody is wrong.
Yeah, that's ridiculous pricing. But all right, so we'll continue on here. DeAndre Ayton, power forward eligible on DK, I think is a really good play. So people will forget he was playing really well when we were right before we got hit with the coronavirus. He was playing really well. Obviously, the Wizards are bad against big men, and I don't know if you noticed or if you saw this in the scrimmages, but Ayton came out and he's just been like launching up 3-pointers.
Did he shoot more than like 2 on the entire season?
Yeah, I don't think he shot very many at all, but he was just letting it fly in those scrimmages.
I hope he does. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, so I like
I mean,
him a good bit at 79.
yeah, he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. Washington isn't good against bigs, and Ayton is very good, and he's just getting better. Like, I think we need to realize that even with these young players, this is kind of like a new season. And when you look at the really young players, like from their first to second season, they get so much better. And now we've had months off. Like guys like DeAndre Ayton are going to come back and they're going to be better than they were.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So I think he's a good play. Hachimura, I think, is a good play, but why would you play Hachimura over Ayton when they're right around the same price, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine playing Hachimura.
Yeah,
Even
the ceiling is so much higher on Ayton.
the ceiling on Hachimura for his price is pretty low, honestly. I don't think that he has a very high ceiling at all.
I agree with that. So do you have anyone? The mid tier is kind of jumbled. I don't really like anyone in this mid tier. Like you have guys like Covington, who we've already talked about. I think you can use. I think you can lose Bielitsa at 53, fitting with the Kings. Most people will play Holmes, so that could be a little leverage play right there. So I think you could consider him, but I don't like a ton of these guys. Mo Wagner, I think, is interesting at 43, but not someone I would want to play in cash, obviously.
Now, more or less Bielitsa. I think you can play Jaren Jackson Jr. He's only 4,900. He'll play 30 minutes. Brandon Clark, I think, makes sense just because he can score in bunches, but strictly tournaments, I don't really like him that much. And then if you want to drop down to 3K, Zach Collins will be maybe the highest owned player on the entire slate. And uh, you can use him he's power forward center eligible.
Yeah, you definitely can fade Zach Collins if you want, though. I know he's min price, but I would have no problems fading him. But if you're playing cash, you can probably just plug him in for 3K because he's going to be high owned. He has a pretty obvious path to mid 20s in minutes, and he's not a horrible player. Like he's better than a mid price player, right?
Yeah, without question.
The other guy I want to mention real quick, Rodions Karuks for the Nets. This is someone I was more interested in a couple days ago. Now I think I would rather play Chioza because they're both sub 4K. But Karuks is going to have to play, man. Like he's probably going to play
Yeah.
backup center, which is kind of weird because he's more of an outside guy that shoots threes than he is a down low player. But he's probably going to play backup center because they don't have anybody, and he's not shy shooting 3-pointers. So I could see him getting a decent amount of shots up.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all. So I have no problems playing him, really.
I think he's a fine play in tournaments. Do we like Jaren Jackson on FanDuel for 4,700? I'm sure Bales loves that price tag.
Yep, that is ridiculous. Go ahead and plug him in, plug in Holmes, and do whatever you want with the rest of your money.
Yep, I am in agreement there. Center will finish up here. DK, it's obvious you're playing Jared Allen, which we've kind of alluded to as we had it on here. Like he's gonna have to play big minutes. He played well over 30 minutes in the games that DeAndre Jordan missed earlier in the season. They don't have anybody behind him that can really play center. So even if he's in foul trouble, I think he easily plays 30 minutes in this game. Tough matchup, but he's a point per minute player that can really rack up fantasy points. So I think like we're locking him in for cash games, Mills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sucks using Jared Allen in cash games because they mess up his price. Because, like he could walk out there and foul 10 times and immediately be out. But you can't really beat 5,800 for a guy that dominates when he's on the court and is going to have to play over 30 minutes.
Yeah, so I think that creates an interesting situation in the mid tier because while Holmes is 3,900 on FanDuel and going to be massive chalk, he's 5,100 and center only on DK. So everyone will be playing Allen, and I think a lot of people are going to play Pirtle from the Spurs, who's below him. So I think that's going to create some sort of lower ownership on Holmes. So I really like him in tournaments. In terms of spend ups, Porzingis I think is a perfectly fine play in that game in tournaments. Like it's such a good game. I like stacking it if you can do that. I like him at 8,600. I like Vooch at 85. I don't think Vooch has the same ceiling as someone like Porzingis, but Jared Allen is not good defensively. I know he can go out there and get some blocks, but in terms of an individual defender, he's not very good. And we've kind of targeted big men against the Nets for quite some time. So I don't really like the Magic as a team on this slate because the pace of the game probably isn't going to be that great, but I definitely do have interest in Vooch at 8,500. I don't think anyone's going to play him.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you want to drop down, you can take your shot on Nurkic too. No one's going to play him because do people even know he's back?
Yeah, I was going to say I don't want any Whiteside at his price with Nurk back, but I think you can play Nurkic for sure. He's
Yeah,
better
if
than
he's
that
playing
price
25
tag.
minutes, like he can score in a hurry, and I think people are going to forget that. But I don't know. Definitely no Whiteside, but it feels. I feel like I'm going in tournaments. I'm going like Rashawn Holmes or bust here if I'm not playing Jared Allen.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then the other guy I really like I'm not saying I don't like Pirtle because I do, but if he's going to be really high owned, like Thomas Bryant is $100 less than him. I really like Thomas Bryant against Phoenix.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I don't really want to play chalk Quotal if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I think you could just like I would probably have a lot of Thomas Bryant and GPPs at 4,600. That just seems a little bit too cheap. But I think that about does it. Do we have anyone else at center?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that about does it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the first NBA stream of the bubble. Like I said, we're probably gonna go pre-recorded stuff the day before moving forward for NBA, so you can look for those on our YouTube channel. We won't have an MLB stream today, so be sure to check out the website for our baseball content. And other than that, we'll see you guys for a baseball stream on Monday.